Okay.
Chapter 3 of Hiawatha. Hiawatha learned too the language of all the animals, learned their names and all their secrets, how the beavers built their lodges, where the squirrels hid their acorns, how the reindeer ran so swiftly, why the rabbit was so timid, talked with them whene'er he met them, called them Hiawatha's brothers. Now the woods were full of deer. The red men hunted deer for their meat. They had only bows and arrows to hunt with, for this was long ago. One old man of the tribe, a friend of Nokomis, was a wonderful storyteller. They called him Iagu, the great boaster, for he boasted of the deeds that other men had done. You will be a mighty hunter, he told Hiawatha, and I will sing your praises far and near. Then Iagu set to work and made a bow and some arrows for Hiawatha. The bow he made from a branch of the ash tree. For a string he used a strip of the deer's skin. The arrows he made from an oak bough. At one end they had sharp tips of flint. At the other end were feathers. Iagu gave the bow and arrows to Hiawatha, saying, "Go, my son, into the forest and kill a deer for us." Walking softly in his moccasins, Hiawatha went into the forest, and because he knew their language, he knew what all the animals were saying. Forth into the forest straightway, all alone, walked Hiawatha, proudly with his bow and arrows, and the birds sang round him, o'er him. "Do not shoot us, Hiawatha," sang the robin, the opechi, sang the bluebird, the owassa. "Do not shoot us, Hiawatha." Up the oak tree close beside him sprang the squirrel, Ajidoma. In and out among the branches, coughed and chattered from the oak tree, laughed and said between his laughing, "Do not shoot me, Hiawatha." And the rabbit from his pathway leaped aside and at a distance sat erect upon his haunches, half in fear and half in frolic, saying to the little hunter, "Do not shoot me, Hiawatha." But Hiawatha paid them little heed. His thoughts were of the red deer. His eyes were fastened on their tracks leading downward to the river. He followed the tracks a little way and then hid in the alder bushes. There he waited, and his heart within him fluttered and trembled like the leaves above him. Then he saw 2 antlers lifted as a deer came down the pathway. Hiawatha rose on one knee and aimed an arrow. Scarcely a twig moved with his motion. Scarcely a leaf was stirred or rustled. Yet the deer heard. It stopped and listened, but it was too late. Hiawatha had drawn back on the bow, and his arrow found its mark. No longer did Hiawatha feel timid. He felt like a mighty hunter as he bore the red deer homeward, and Iagu and Nokomis hailed his coming with rejoicing. From the red deer's hide, Nokomis made a cloak for Hiawatha. From the red deer's flesh, Nokomis made a banquet in his honor. All the village came and feasted. All the guests praised Hiawatha, called him Strongheart, Soangataha, called him Lionheart, Mangotaisi, Hiawatha and Mujakuis. Hiawatha grew swift of foot. He could run faster than the arrow shot from his bow. He could shoot 10 arrows upward so swiftly that the 10th one left the bowstring before the first fell to the earth. He had magic mittens made of deerskin. When he wore them, he could break rocks with his hands. He had magic moccasins. When he tried them on his feet, each step carried him a mile. Many times he asked Nokomis about his mother and heard how Mujikuis had left her and how she had died broken-hearted, and his heart burned with anger. As he grew to young manhood, Hiawatha told Nokomis, "I will go to Mujikuis, to the doorway of the west wind. I will punish him." Old Nokomis warned him, "He may harm you with his magic. He may kill you with his cunning." But the fearless Hiawatha paid no heed to all her warning. He dressed himself for travel in his deerskin shirt and leggings. On his head he wore eagle feathers, on his feet his magic moccasins. In his hand he carried his bow of ash wood, in his quiver his strong arrows. Westward he traveled, a mile at each step. He crossed the Mississippi River. He left the plains behind him. Soon he reached the Rocky Mountains, kingdom of the west wind, and there upon a stormy peak sat Mujikuis, his long white hair streaming wildly about him. When he looked on his son, Hiawatha, the old man saw himself as he had once been. "Welcome," he said, "to the kingdom of the west wind." Then the mighty Mujikuis boasted of his bravery. He told of his dangerous adventures and how none could overcome him. Hiawatha listened, and no word or look betrayed him. But his heart still burned with anger. "O Mujikuis," he said at last, "is there nothing that can harm you?" The mighty Mujikuis answered, "Only the black rock yonder." The old man looked with pride at Hiawatha's tall and graceful figure, and he said, "O Hiawatha, is there anything you are afraid of?" Hiawatha, crafty, clever, answered falsely, "Nothing but the bulrush yonder." Then they talked of Hiawatha's mother, and Hiawatha cried out, "O Mujikuis, it was you who killed her." The old man nodded silently, sadly. Then Hiawatha sprang up. With his magic mittens, he smashed a boulder apart and hurled the rocks at Mujikuis. But the west wind, breathing strongly, blew the rocks back at Hiawatha. An eagle flapped his wings above them, screaming. Now Mujikuis seized a giant bulrush. He battled Hiawatha with it, but the brave young Indian only laughed at him. They fought there till the earth shook beneath their feet and the mountains thundered to the noise of battle. At last, Hiawatha drove his father to the gateway of the sunset, to earth's farthest edge. Then Mujikuis called, "Stop, my son, Hiawatha. It's impossible to kill me, for I am immortal. I put you to this test to prove your courage. Go back now to your people. Clear their fishing grounds and rivers. Kill all the monsters and evil things, as I once killed the great bear." Thus their battle ended in the days long ago, but one can still see the giant bulrush growing by the ponds and rivers, and the black rocks lying in the valleys of the Rockies.